Hi, this is Regeline Sabat, also known as Gigi, and you're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Lynda Sunshine West. She's an author and speaker. Welcome to the show, Lynda.
Hi, Gigi. First of all, I got to tell you, I don't know if you know this, but my daughter's name was Gina, but we always called her Gigi when she was little. So when I see your name, I think of my daughter.
I love it. That's awesome. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about you and where are you from?
I'm from San Diego, California. I was born and raised, so we don't have a whole lot of people who are born and raised in San Diego. I'm one of those. And, I just a short story of me is I grew up in a very volatile, abusive, alcoholic household. And when I was 5, I made a decision to do something, and that was to run away. When I ran away, I was gone an entire week. Now, the first question people always ask me is, well, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Well, I went to the neighbor's house, but you think about it, at 5 years old, for all intents and purposes, I was gone. Like I didn't want to come back. And the only reason I came back is because my mom, she knew where I was, but she called the neighbor and said, it's time to send her back home. So I came back home riddled with fear and became a people pleaser for many, many years to come. Do you want me to continue?
Absolutely. So let's talk about that for a moment. You talk about growing up in an abusive household. What would you tell someone else who's going through the same situation right now?
Oh, I think it depends on your age, because at 5, you don't really have a whole lot of options. The running away thing. If I had run away somewhere further and my mom didn't know where I was, who knows where I would be today. But I also, just like a lot of us, I married somebody just like my dad. And I realized 2 years into that marriage, when my daughter, I mentioned her earlier, when my daughter was only 4 weeks old and my son was 14 months old, I realized that I was living the same life that my mom had kind of been living, an abusive environment. And I decided, I'm not going to do that. So I literally put my diaper bag over my one shoulder. I put my purse over the other shoulder. I put my son on my hip, 14 months old, and my 4-week-old in a baby carrying case. And I literally walked out. I didn't have a car. So I walked out. And I made a decision at that moment that I was not going to repeat the life that I had lived. I didn't want my kids to grow up in the environment that I had grown up with in. And so, it hard to make that decision? It took me a few months to make the decision. And when I left, I just did not look back.
That's right. As my good friend Lindy Elridge says, you leave because of your children. You leave those type of relationships because of your children.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Now, Linda, can you talk to us a little bit more about your books?
Yeah, well, there's 15 times, best-selling author, and that number is going to increase in June, and the numbers keep going up. I've started a publishing company, and so with that, there's a lot of books that I'm also not only publishing but also writing and being part of. What I love about book writing and sharing your story is that you have an opportunity to make an impact on the planet in so many more ways than you can ever imagine without having written the book. And my first book was a collaboration book. I joined a collaboration book many years ago. It's 2016 and actually 2015. And in 2017, I wrote my own book called The Year of Fears. And then after that, I asked myself a question. Okay, I was in a collaboration book. I wrote my own book. What's my next natural state of progression? And that was to write my own collaboration book. So I started bringing people together to write this collaboration book. And it was so awesome. I happened to be friends with the founder of UGG Boots, the creator of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the inventor of the credit card magnetic strip. And I reached out to all 3 of them and I said, I'm thinking of writing a book called Momentum. Will you be part of it? And all 3 of them said, yes, just tell me what I need to do. So that really started the movement towards, creating a publishing company. And it's been such an amazing journey. But that Year of Fears book, that thing is based on the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, when I came home after 5 running away for a week, I was riddled with fear. And fear controlled a lot of my life. So even though it might have been a courageous move to run away or leave my ex-husband, I did it because of the fear I had. I had the fear of my life, fear for my children. I didn't want them to grow up in that. So what I did is I made a decision. Which fear is stronger, the fear to run away or the fear to stay? And I decided that the fear to run away was more important for me to do than the fear to stay. And so that was kind of a driving force for me for many, many decades in my life until I was 51 years old. At 51, I hired a life coach to help me to discover, like, what the heck is my purpose on this planet? I was so filled with anger and hate from those years, those previous years of abuse. And so that anger and hate that I was filled with, I was walking around that way. And then one day when I was driving to work, and I was working in the corporate world for 36 years with 49 jobs, as I was driving to that 49th job, I was just like, what is this planet about? I don't understand this. Like, what's my purpose here? I have no value. I truly believe this about myself because of things that were said to me at a younger age. And so when I got to work that day, there was a Facebook post from a woman. It said, I'm a life coach. I took some time off. I'm ready to get back into it. And I'm looking for 5 women who want to change their lives. And I was like, I'm in. I want to change my life. And so I started working with her. And that was the greatest gift I ever gave to myself, was to raise my hand and say, I'm worth it. And I want to figure out, like, why am I even here? So with that said, after I worked with my life coach, I ended up saying on January 1st of 2015, I woke up that morning and I said, oh my gosh, I have so many fears and they're stopping me from living my life. I'm going to break through a fear every day this year. And so I did. 365 days in a row, I broke through a fear. And then my mentor said, you need to write a book about it. So I did. So that's where the Year of Fears came from. And I wrote that book, and I'm so glad I did. It took me a while, about a year and a half to finish it. I was a starter. I started. And finally, a book coach gave me one tip that helped me to start and finish the book in a week and then publish it a week later. So this is where I am today because I broke through all those fears, all these things I've done. It's just been an incredible journey, and it ain't over yet.
I love it. And that's right. You have to start somewhere and have faith over fear. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Faith over fear. I'll say it again. Faith over fear. Now, Lynda, you are a part of our upcoming Global Leadership Conference this Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And your topic is Do It Because You Are Scared.
Yep. That's a big one for me. And I'll give you another acronym. They say fear, face everything and run. I've heard face everything and rise, false evidence appearing real. One day I was brushing my teeth, and this was probably about 3 months into the journey of, breaking through a fear every single day. So about 3 months of that. And I was brushing my teeth and I was like, false evidence appearing real. My fears are real. They don't appear real at all. There's no evidence of anything. And so I was just like, what is this all about? So I came up with my own acronym, and that is that faith erases anxious reactions. Because as you said, faith over fear. When our faith is strong, our fear is weakened. Sometimes when our faith is strong, our fear is eliminated. But it's an opportunity for us to check in and say, how strong is my faith right now? My faith in myself, my faith in others, and my faith in God. How strong is my faith that my fear is strong? So it helps us to move into a different state of mind and say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this because I'm scared. There's one thing I discovered after breaking through a fear every single day, 365 days in a row. I like to say I exercised my fear muscle, which fear is not a muscle, but I just like to say that. And one thing I discovered is that probably 99% of the time, when I broke through a fear, I was glad I did it. I was proud of myself that I did it. And I had a great result 99% of the time. So if you had a fear and you broke through that fear, what are the odds, 99%, that you're going to be so glad you did that and that your life will most likely change for a positive? So because of that, do it because you're scared.
I love it. Now, Lynda, tell us a little bit more about your company.
Yes. Oh, Action Takers Publishing. That name Action Takers actually came from when I started breaking through these fears, I became an action taker. I wasn't always an action taker. I was a procrastinator, big time. Like my picture was probably in the dictionary under procrastinator, And so as I started, taking action every day, because my commitment to myself was that here's how the day started. I would wake up, not even get out of bed, and I would ask myself 3 simple words. And that's what scares me. And then I would lay in bed and I would wait until the first fear popped into my head. And my commitment to myself was to break through that fear that day. I couldn't compile them and do 2 in one day. I had to do it that day. That was my firm commitment to myself. So I became accustomed to action, taking action, doing things. And I found that the more action I took, the more results I got. It was like, duh, right? But that's what happened. And I said, you know what? I want to create an environment where I am surrounded by other action takers. So by creating this Action Takers Publishing, what this has done is it's helped me to be surrounded by people who are action takers, which I want to be surrounded by because I want to continue to take action. So that's how Action Takers Publishing was born. And I'm so glad that these things came to me because, you know, God sends me these titles of books. He sends me these titles of things, and then I get to decide, am I going to do something with that or not?
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, write that down. Ask yourself what scares you. Ask yourself that today, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Lynda, can you tell us more about the major challenge that you overcame in your life?
Oh gosh, there are so many. I'll pick one. Having those fears. One thing that I learned as I went 6 months into it, again, it's like 180 days, right, in a row of breaking through fears. I started asking myself another question. I frequently ask myself questions. So if you hear me speak, you always hear me talk about asking questions because I like to ask myself these questions that I can get these answers. And so I asked myself, what is the common theme between the majority of the fears that I've broken through this year? And so I started thinking about, the different fears and like looking at them really deeply looking. And there was something that came to mind because they say, whoever they is, say that more people are scared of speaking on stage than they are of dying. And it hit me that that's not true at all. The truth, the reality is more people are scared of the judgment they will receive of speaking on stage than they are of dying. And I said, oh my gosh, I think the vast majority of my fears are fear of judgment. So now I got to start working on that particular fear and be able to hone in on, oh, I'm scared of that because I'm scared of what people are going to think of me, what they're going to say of me. How are they going to judge me? And what ended up happening, this is so cool because what ended up happening is that I myself was a very judgmental person. I grew up in that abuse. I became a very abusive person. I became a judgmental. And what happened is, as I noticed that judgment was the biggest fear that I had, it wasn't only the judgment of others, but the judgment of myself. I was my own worst enemy. And so what ended up happening is, as I started focusing on getting rid of my fear of judgment, I stopped judging others so much. Like I still judge people because I'm a human, but now I catch myself. I'm like, oh, you're judging, get out of there. And I just make an immediate shift. So for me, that one thing right there has totally changed the way I show up. The way now I show up as me 100% of the time. I'm not faking it and trying to be someone I'm not. And I also see others for who they really are. Like I want to see deep down within your soul who you truly are, not that surface person. I want to see who you really are. And I no longer have judgments. You might do things that you fail on or whatever. And I just say, let's keep going. Let's do it. And so it's changed my entire life.
It's very powerful. Now, Lynda, where can the audience find you?
actiontakerspublishing.com. We have a lot of great programs going on. We not only publish books, but we do other things as well. We have some free downloads over there. We have our YouTube channel that we're trying to amp up, which I think isn't everybody trying to amp up their YouTube channel? But we're working on amping that up, providing more value. actiontakerspublishing.com is where you can find everything we're working on.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Lynda on all of her social media platforms and her website. And Lynda, thank you for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. You have a blessed day.
Thank you. Bye.
God bless.